So, Imo, today, because you know I'm trying to persuade you to come and live with me on the Isle of Wight, I thought I'd show you another property, sort of at the top range of the housing market. It's called Osborne House.
Has it got a
big, isn't it?
How many bathrooms?
It's got a lot of bathrooms and it's got everything you should want and a private beach. Oh, I love a map. Oh, now this is good.
Map.
Here we are outside with a big garden map. Look, this is the private beach.
Oh, lovely. Oh, it's your favourite colour. Look, that lovely, famous turquoise sea that we get in Britain. It's so mortifying because I actually played Queen Victoria on the radio, 13 episodes called Young Victoria. And I can't remember a thing about it except that Adrian Lucas, who played Albert, was just so funny because he had a terrible German accent, which he would admit himself. And he called her Pussy for something. Anyway, you can imagine how awful it was. And everything became double entendre and very silly. And I don't remember a thing about their lives.
Oh, that's very disappointing, Imogen, because I thought you were going to be able to, tell me, having immersed yourself in Victoriana. But I don't want to give all the treats away by just looking at this map for an hour in the rain. Can we actually go inside now, Imo?
Yes, thank you.
Hello there, I'm the TV presenter and broadcaster Anneka Rice, and I'm with my good friend.
I'm Imogen Stubbs, and this is
Meet Me at the Museum. Hello, yes, we've got our national art passes, so can we have 2 tickets, please?
Yeah, lovely. Of course, you can come in for free today with those.
And it gives us access to the grounds everywhere.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I decided Osborne House should be, my first tactic on trying to lure you to the Isle of Wight, and that's why I brought you here, because I just thought it would resonate with you a bit. It's a beautiful house that Victoria created with her husband Albert and their thousands of children, set in beautiful grounds, and we like walking and,
Well, my only other experience of the Isle of Wight, other than coming to see you, which, I do think it's a really special place, but I was a school trip.
Oh.
Well, I was allocated a girl with a broken ankle, so I just had to push her around and we couldn't do anything fun. I'm amazed it has something like Osborne House on it.
I know, that is the extraordinary thing about the Isle of Wight, is its historical resonance, really.
Wow, this is so unexpected.
It's very impressive.
It's very
isn't it?
Italian looking.
It's Italian looking. There's lots of courtyards.
It's not a tall British palace. It's not a tall Buckingham Palace, is it?
And it's not what you imagine to be in the middle of the Isle of Wight. The thing that strikes you most is the scale, because this was their family home, away from it all, where they retreated. So you would imagine that they wouldn't need quite so much space.
Well, this is cosy as palaces go, isn't it? And this was Albert bringing his
Renaissance. I love the way you say that.
Renaissance.
And the other
See, now
side,
I think
and you'll
if Harry
see
and
it.
Meghan, if the world was different and there weren't paparazzi and things, this would have been a lovely place for them. If it could have been as private as it obviously was for Victoria and Albert.
Yeah.
A beautiful place to be and creative and uplifting, but it would have been a lot more convenient, probably. Falling on the stairs. Wow.
So, Imo, these are the main stairs. So this would be the, trip up to the bedroom in the evening. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? So the stairs are painted in that lovely, soft, dusky pink.
Yes, it's very specific, isn't it? It's sort of... It makes me think of old-fashioned chocolate shops. That's a vast painting that dominates the staircase, with a lot of naked people. Very reassuring bodies. Female bodies, a very reassuring look.
Has that got some sort... We're both slightly out of breath. Have you noticed?
I know,
We've gone up one
small
flight.
staircase.
I'm a bit embarrassed about that.
I like the man with the little wings on his head.
Well, who would that be? What is that painting?
It's by William Dyce. It's Neptune resigning the crown to Britannia. So essentially, Britannia rules the waves.
Oh, that's exactly what I said.
That's what I thought, yeah. And the lion?
Yeah, to signify Britannia. So you have Britannia there with industry and some trades.
And who are you?
Hi, I'm Leah.
This is Leah we found in a corridor.
I've been a steward here at Osborne for the past 6 years.
Have you?
Is everything exactly as it was then?
Yeah, it is. And so whenever there's restoration work to the ceilings, we always match the original colours. But most of the ceilings at Osborne have just had small touch-ups here and there. The majority of it is the original paintwork still.
So it was him design. It was his
Yeah,
His taste
Osborne was
mainly,
very
wasn't
much built to Albert's sort of design and his influences from his travels around Italy.
So sort of Italy and German, or just...
Yeah, Osborne's a strange sort of mishmash. It's quite often designed by a German, trying to be Italian, and then made by British craftsmen. So you get a little mixture of influences there.
It's a really
European.
good combo, isn't it? Yeah.
Although we have a later addition to the house, the Indian wing, which wasn't built till after Albert's death, and so really that's Victoria's choice there, and it's a completely different style to the rest of the house.
When I own the house, I won't do it completely like this.
No.
But I do appreciate it. It's a bit pastel-y for me.
Yeah, but Imo and I really like nothing more than getting a bit of old distressed furniture and seeing what we can do with it.
I love that. A million things you can do with a watering can.
Really?
Okay.
I love our friendship, Imogen, because out of all my friends,
bless
you're
you.
probably the person I see the most of, because we do see each other most weeks, don't
I
we?
know. I think that's just because we live on the river and we love walking, and my very sporadic visits to the gym.
Yes, we
which
sometimes do a sort of down dog together,
we
don't
down
we, on a
dog.
Wednesday?
Many a happy down dog we've done.
Yeah. We've never been to a museum together, ever. I mean, we
No.
paint together, which is glorious.
Well-
That's how we sort of really got friendly, wasn't it?
Yes, although you can paint and I can't. In fact, I'm so bad that I think because of you, they approached me about one of those television programs where, you know, you paint and I kind of went, I'm really bad. And they said, oh, I'm sure you're not, you know, it must be marvellous. And then they asked for a sample. So I sent through something and
Never
heard
heard
from them again.
That's shocking. We should explain this art group we used to belong to. John Napier, a mutual friend of ours, who's the superb designer of things like Cats,
Les
Miss
Miserables,
Saigon,
yeah.
Les Miserables. And he suddenly, on a whim, decided he had this big studio at home and he'd ask lots of friends around regularly on a Thursday night to paint. So he got easels in, he got all the paints, and we
got
bought
food and
nothing, did
drink.
we? We just arrived, had gin and wine.
And I think that was one of the most heavenly ways of spending a Thursday evening you can possibly think of, even though I was very bad at art.
Oh, is that one of their dogs? Very friendly-looking dog statue.
There's a statue of a greyhound out the back where I landed in a helicopter, picked up a clue from there.
Welcome to another treasure hunt. Well, today, our indomitable skyrunner, Anneka Rice, is being guided by John Weston Smith and his wife, Chris. And you know that you're going to solve 5 cryptic clues to get Anneka to the treasure and win for yourselves £1,000.
So there we were, treasure hunt, bombing around in a helicopter, landed in Osborne House. I can see, Imo, you're looking very confused at treasure hunt. You've probably never seen it or heard of it. You have no idea what
I've
it
heard it
is.
was very good. I don't think I did ever see it.
I was in a helicopter and I basically had to fly around the UK and the world. We did treasure hunts in Bali and Singapore
what
and
a
all over
dream
the place,
job.
Egypt. And I was directed by contestants in a studio and had to zoom around following clues. And I landed in Osborne House at one time. One of their greyhounds, one of Albert. I think it was Albert that loved his dogs. I should have found all this out before we
You
arrived.
landed the helicopter right near one of his precious statues.
Yeah, ran in, grabbed a clue and went off again, as you do.
When was that?
1985, at some time around there.
You had a glamorous job there.
Well, it is funny because it does mean I know the whole of Britain. I've seen the whole of Britain by air and whizzed in and out of a lot of places.
Did you come up with the idea of treasure?
No, I came up with the
Treasure
idea of Challenge Anneka after that, but Treasure Hunt was a French format, actually, and there was a very sexy man called Pierre Duleveur who did my role, who actually got killed filming.
No.
He was shot at by guerrillas in the Congo or somewhere.
Did you do things that were that dangerous?
Yeah. So, honestly, this was before health and safety.
And you
know.
had children and everything?
No, I didn't.
No,
at
this
that
was
stage.
before
No,
children.
this was in the 80s.
Is this a boiler suity thing, or was
It's
this
a boiler
was this-
suity thing.
And
It
then
was the
with-
jumpsuit scenario. Yeah.
Oh, are there,
And the clues led me to that particular dog.
but you see, the treasure hunting is just the sort of, when it comes to careers advice, you know, if someone had suggested that kind of job. I mean, when I got to do quite a long time of being a travel writer, that's just the most heavenly thing ever, to be sort of paid and encouraged to go and travel around the world. And so, you know, I thought, went on the Orient Express across, you know, Australia, and then, you know, Guatemala, places I probably wouldn't go now, rather innocently. And, normally somebody would come with me who was I don't know how you didn't come, actually. It was a friend who had a camera.
Serena, who was good at photography.
Yeah, well, she got good. We had a few sort of, oops, I've deleted everything in the Atacama Desert moments. And I think one time we had to recreate some moments of India in Shepherd's Bush Market.
Oh, genius. Because, that's so funny. Here we are talking about India, so I'm going to take you to the India room because, of course, Victoria became obsessed as the Empress of India.
Like Victoria and Abdul and that.
What was it about Victoria and Abdul? He came over to
I can't remember.
Work
all I know is whoever played it in the film with Judi Dench was just divine.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we can get a glimpse of Abdul in the India room now. This is more your vibe, isn't it, really?
Well, it is spectacular. It's totally different.
She became obsessed with India. She never went herself. But, I mean, for instance, here you'll see all sorts of things like addresses to the Queen from her Indian subjects contained in caskets and things. So she loved the feeling that she was the Empress of India. Amazing silver caskets. The boat there.
It's beautiful. And this room is so ornate. It's like the sort of an extension of
The Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal, or a very, very fancy Indian restaurant.
It is. It does feel like that.
But then in the middle is this table with sort of tropical plants on it, which I assume this is how they would have had banquets. So you wouldn't see anyone opposite you at all because the flowers are piled so high.
With beautiful roses and a very English country garden flowers down this in the central piece.
I did a thing recently where I did a Wide Sargasso Sea. It's a sort of a talking book thing where we were performing it. And they brought in all these flowers from Dominica. And I became totally allergic to them. They looked amazing. But as the thing went on, I had tears streaming down my face. I had a terrible reaction. And it cost them a fortune to bring them into we did the show twice in 2 different locations. And all the money had gone on these flowers. And everyone thought I was giving the most moving reading ever. And Alex Jennings was like, oh my goodness, you so get into the part. I went, I'm so allergic to these plants, but I couldn't say anything.
Victoria and Albert, as a couple, were intensely creative, ahead of their time, really, real sort of Renaissance people, especially Albert. Always inventing things, collecting things.
He's a lot more astonishing than one realises. I never gave him credit for he's an astonishing man. No wonder she was absolutely infatuated with him.
She really was. And I like the thought that, Victoria and Albert, spent many happy hours creating and painting together and writing and everything. And I just thought, you and I, Imo, we are a creative bundle when we're together, aren't we?
We certainly are.
If you think of our walks, from the moment we set off to the moment we arrive back, we do.
Yeah, we devise things. We
discuss books.
Yes, we kind of solve the problems of the world.
I tell you should write a play every time, don't I?
And I think I had all your stand-up comedy stuff. I think I was majorly encouraging on all of that. And we discuss our children and
it's more or less the same conversation.
Yeah, it's
every
always
time.
the same
always
conversation.
The same parameters.
Or is it the same? Going past the same tree, suddenly catch ourselves and realise, don't we always have this conversation?
Yeah. This is Albert's study in here, Imo. Oh, I remember this. So Victoria has the big desk, and then that glorious view right down to the sea.
Oh, wonderful! Right down to the
Darling,
sea. Darling,
I loved it when we saw that thing in the entrance somewhere. Where
once again, I return to Dear Osborne.
Dear Osborne. But she calls it Dear Osborne, which is so funny because whenever I get the hovercraft over and I land on the Isle of Wight, I just can't, it's involuntary. I just go, oh, darling Isle of Wight. And I just say it to myself every time. So I feel that Queen Victoria and I are very similar.
I think you're soulmates.
Apart from the fact that I'm not a queen, haven't had 9 children, haven't got a Renaissance
But other
husband.
than that, there's an incredible similarity.
It's amazing, isn't it?
This is beautiful, this desk.
You've got the ceiling wax here as well, and then the 2 paperweights, which are Hercules beetles, but the male and the female of the species.
And look, there's a harpsichord. So there was a quick segue from writing to...
This is Albert's Harmonium, and he used to play... so you have to pump away at the bottom, and then you've got the different stops to change the tone. But he was quite a musical man, and he used to compose as well.
Renaissance man.
Before they were married, he used to send his compositions to Victoria from Germany, and she'd play them in Britain.
Oh, they're the ultimate
So do you think
romantic.
she matched his intellect?
I think so, and I think he certainly probably inspired and encouraged it as well.
So Leah, Victoria liked to paint, didn't she? Can we see some of her work?
Yep, so you have two paintings above which were both painted by Queen Victoria, and they're their children dressed up in their costumes acting out different scenes at Windsor.
Yeah. These are extraordinary, these pictures by Victoria, aren't they? Because that's quite an un-English style, the one with the little girl and boy in...
Yeah, so this is depicting a scene from a German play.
Yes.
So they're dressed up in the costumes here. And they used to put on plays and tableaus, all sorts of plays as well, quite often Shakespeare.
My kids, when they were little, we had dressing up boxes, and they would get up in the morning and dress up. Usually, I've got 3 sons, they'd usually dress up as fairies or girls and go away all day doing plays. That was their entertainment.
The very characters.
I mean, whatever they did.
Yeah. When we had my stepchildren, I had 2 stepdaughters and my 2 children, a boy and a girl, they did the same all the time, dressing up, but they mainly did musicals. And the oldest girl normally played the lead, and she let the younger ones throw glitter or make snacks, and they were allowed to light her with torches and things. They didn't get to do any big numbers in case they were good.
It was my son, number 2, who always sort of slightly took control and wrote it, and then everyone else had to just do what they were told.
They were normally quite silly, but I remember once, when they were all quite young, one of them was about people committing joint suicide from the climbing frame, and it took an Ibsen-esque turn, and we had to have a little bit of a break.
Yes. Calm them down.
Calm them down.
Oh.
I mean, I've got a brother and a sister, but
I've got a
Victoria
brother.
and Albert, I mean, they knocked those babies out, didn't they?
When you come to this house, it's quite overwhelming. What a magical upbringing they ventured on the children. I mean, I don't know what's done such a disservice to Victoria in one's sort of, when you grow up, you think, oh, she was that rather grumpy-looking woman. Well,
Yeah.
It's actually her profile.
She might have been a tyrant of a mother, we don't know.
Now, this is what I wanted to show you. This is the nursery. So we're in a room that has just got tiny little cots lined up, but they're obviously beautifully handmade.
Were the
cots.
children that close in age?
Not only the 9 children use these rooms, but the 40 grandchildren, and then some of the 87 great-grandchildren as well would have come. And you've got the different toys. So the little Noah's Ark down there is an original piece that the children would have played with as well.
Now, I used to have something that was quite similar to that. I mean, the similarities are just leaping off every room, but I used to have on wooden animals and sort of beautifully made animals.
And then the cradle at the back, the swinging cradle, was actually last used by George VI, the Queen's father. It was at Windsor at the time, but that was the last royal occupant of the cradle.
And that is incredibly ornate, if not a bit terrifying to look at.
A lot of
because
drapery over
the
there.
drapery looks like a proscenium arch, and the
does.
child's
Very
about to
heavy.
emerge and give her aria.
This carpet has to go. It's so swirly. and
Minimalism is not a word in a Victorian
Again,
dictionary.
it looks modern.
It's just a lot to live with. It's very busy.
It is.
Where are we going
I'm going to
next?
take you downstairs next to my favourite room, which is the dining room. So we'll head through the main stairs. We'll be a royal, so we'll go down the royal stairs. This is my favourite room at Osborne, not least because it's where the food would be served, but it's because of all the family portraits in here. You've got quite an iconic image of Victoria and Albert and their first 5 children at the end. And we've actually got the 3 eldest children in here with some of their families. And my favourite painting is this one here of Alice.
It's
who's-
almost like a photograph, that.
It is. It's beautiful. And in the Victorian era, you see this fashion for realistic paintings coming through because you've got photography coming in as well. So you can't be overly flattering.
Very interesting what you say about the realism, photography coming in, because there is a marked difference now at the style of portraiture we're seeing.
But you've also got the changes in the fabric, so you can see where the furs meet the silks
Yes.
and the lace work and,
the shine
jewellery.
on the boots.
But also, it's a very muted backdrop. There's no winged angels appearing. There's no cherubs
It is.
loitering. It's realism. Isn't it?
Yeah, and the focus is very much the family here rather than kind of what's going on around.
It's very touching the way that Victoria and Albert were so obsessed with their children at a period of history where you don't imagine that children get centre stage at all.
I had a lovely childhood with my family in Northumberland and growing up on a boat in London. And although my parents were very busy, and sadly my father died, but My mother was very, very keen on us doing creative things. So when you were ill, you had to learn poems, and we were always doing collages or making things with eggs where you dye them with flowers. It was vital to be creative and make presents for people rather than buy them, all of that sort of thing. So in that sense, it was
similar, I think, definitely. And my parents were just obsessed with books. There were books everywhere, and every Saturday we children were marched down to the local library because you walked everywhere, didn't you? Back in the day, and we had to get 7 books out every 2 weeks. And read them. But I loved them. I was obsessed with that library. I knew every book on every shelf. I must have probably worked my way through the whole library. And when I went to primary school, there was a library there, and I became the school librarian. I loved sort of playing. I loved playing books and
have a
get
little
everyone's
bag?
tickets in and out. You know, I really loved something about books. So we're walking down this main path. So the beach is straight on, but let's divert to the Swiss Cottage
Oh,
first.
this is
And you'll
lovely,
be utterly
isn't it?
charmed.
Daffodils out, little orchard.
My name's Nicola, and I'm a historic properties steward here. I work mostly at weekends, but I've been here for a few years now. And Swiss is my favourite part of the entire estate. So if you want to come this way. This whole cottage, this whole quarter, was designed in aid to allow the children to work through play. So a lot of the things that you'll see that the children played with, there was a reason for it. There was an agenda there. Albert was very keen on them learning practical skills.
To make them sort of slightly more normal.
Absolutely, yes.
Look, Albert taught them nursery rhymes, playing hide and seek. They flew kites and did magic tricks.
I mean, this is the dream, isn't
This
it?
is the papa of all time. Oh, are these pictures by each of the...
Well, this part of the cottage, actually, these first 3 main rooms that you come into, they were actually where Louise and Thomas Warren, the housekeepers, stayed. So they lived in here and supervised the cottage. We've transformed these first few rooms that you see into an interactive area for the modern day children to enjoy.
So when we say it's a doll's house for the children, it's not. It
would have been quite a treat
beautiful
to
building.
live here.
It's beautiful.
Stunning.
I mean, it would be everyone's dream house, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. We certainly get a lot of visitors who say they could move in tomorrow. So
Can I show him the kitchen?
yes, so straight through this way. So you've got the cottage to yourselves today.
Oh, aren't we lucky?
I mean, it is amazing, but it is like some glorious sort of prep school or boarding school for children. But I suppose they didn't have any other tuition
Well,
at all.
absolutely
This was
what it
their
was.
schooling.
Yes,
wasn't
of
it?
course. I mean, we think of this Osborne as being the sort of palatial holiday home where the children could come and relax. But really, work did not stop. So through this way to the scullery. The children were always supervised here. And
they've
this
got a
is where they
little
were...
miniature wheelbarrow to collect the vegetables from their
Absolutely.
garden.
Yes, and as you can see,
from
the
their
plots.
kitchen garden.
The plots just out the window there. This is where the fruit and vegetables were grown. And then often they would be sold back to their father at commercial rates. And we even have a record of the produce being sold outside of the estate as well.
And is this where Victoria Sponge developed?
It's possible. I would say so. There's a bit of a myth surrounding
No, we're going to
that.
go with what you
We'll
say.
go with whatever you say is now fact.
We're fantasising about the
Yes.
canteen, the
Well,
little cafe here.
It's funny you mentioned that. We've got here a replica menu
Oh,
of
Queen Victoria's favourite puddings.
some of the puddings that Victoria
Oh,
partook in eating. Now, we know she was a notoriously fast eater. She loved her pudding. Pudding was her Achilles heel in
good.
terms of food.
I love the suet, you see.
Shredded suet.
It takes me back to my childhood.
Yeah.
Half a pint of cream.
And that would have been just taken from Daisy the cow round the corner
Not on
somewhere.
that farm nearby.
Well, I'll take you out the stairs now.
Oh, well, you don't have a little scullery like this.
This room in particular, it's quite an unusual room, this one. A lot of people say, what was this room used for? What was its use? Well, this was
Punishment
this was essentially a dressing room. What you will notice, the star of the room is probably the Swiss secretaire, just here, which is beautifully carved with a rural scene from Bern in Switzerland. And it's absolutely stunning, and you could use it standing up, sitting down.
There's not 1 inch of it that isn't carved. It's
No.
extraordinary, and there's this lovely relief of the mountains and the goat herd.
My mother was a very good skier, and she used to go off on her own skiing and bring us back presents. But I yearned for all things Swiss. It must have been Heidi or something. I wanted the little outfit. I wanted a cuckoo clock. I wanted Toblerone. You know, it was sort of my ideal. Obviously, I'd never been here, otherwise my ideal would have been
the Swiss Cottage.
You'd have gone no further than the Isle of Wight. Even more. It's all laid out, but it's all fake.
So this here is the Queen's Room, what we call the Queen's Room, and you might think that's an unusual name considering we associate this cottage primarily with the children. Well, they needed somebody to taste those wares. So in this particular room was where the children would essentially host dinner parties and light snacks and tea.
Fun.
And they had the Emperor Napoleon III come here. They had members of the Portuguese royal family. So they had some real distinguished guests come here.
choking on their early attempts at
Pretending
cookies.
to like the cakes and things.
Must be really
This is lovely. So this room in particular is quite an emotive room, I feel, because this really is a snapshot in time. The setting on the table that you see here for this tea was actually taken from a date, the 12th of July, 1861. And that was actually the last time that the family were here all together at Osborne before Albert died the following December.
Was he already ill?
From his early 30s, he developed very awful gastric problems. So he was a poorly man anyway, but obviously died very early in 1861.
He was poorly, and yet he was so energised in terms of all his inventions and ideas. New hero.
Cake. I think it's time for cake. Oh no, we've got
No,
to
we're
go
going to the beach.
for a swim. I think that way of educating your children, I think I've certainly been quite involved with my children in that way. You know, I've certainly seized on anything they were doing and tried to sort of make it more interesting or
I
provide
think I might
the
have
resources.
slightly overdone the education through play, sort of forcing the children, sort of thrusting them on the ground and drawing, their silhouette and handing them colours and saying, fill it in and then we'll frame it and put it on the wall and everyone can see how creative you are. I definitely think that education through play is absolutely the way to educate, though. And I think what's wrong with the education system now is that the minute you get away from primary school, play is taken away and it's all got to be academic. It's catastrophic as far as I can see.
Do you remember Sam? I can't remember whether I knew
Your
this
Sam.
days, my Sam, when he used to make those extraordinary installations up and down the stairs.
You have actually done that thing of capturing, whether the boys like it or not, poems and lovely stories, but, having them prominently there so that children remember what they were like and how they're changing and who they used to be and who they are now. I love that.
Well, it's only because I'm such an archivist. I've done it all my life. It's why I'm doing all this stand-up now, because I've got so much material. Did you try and encourage both children to be actors in your family?
No, I never tried to encourage the children to be actors at all. Jessie, my youngest, now flies helicopters, probably would have flown you around in Treasure Hunt.
See, he's the son I never had. He's the one. I mean, I've had thousands of children, but I should have had one that was a helicopter pilot.
Well, you can borrow mine if you're very good. I'll have your Sam. I love your Sam.
Imo, we're nearly at the end. Hope you've enjoyed our little away day. But there is one more sort of rather gorgeous bit to show you, which is Victoria's private beach.
That's my idea of heaven. You couldn't imagine having, as a royal person, a private beach anymore because it would never be actually private.
Portsmouth on the other side, and what's absolutely glorious if you time this carefully in August, if Cowes Regatta is going on, because that's just around the corner, and so you can be here having a lovely day out with your family, and you just see this armada, flotillas of boats with all the sails. It's absolutely glorious.
Oh, we'll
with
have to do that.
Punch and Judy going on in the background, the kids all playing on the beach, a cup of tea. It's a really lovely place to come. Really very special. I love it here.
And are people swimming in the...
Have you noticed I like the Isle
You
of
do
Wight?
love the Isle of Wight. I really want to live somewhere abroad, but failing that, the Isle of Wight's going up my list. It's beautiful, sandy beach.
And when I did Celebrity Hunted, which you won't know about because it's not your sort of programme, but basically you have to go into hiding, and I hid on the island and arranged for a boat to pick me. Osborne House were brilliant.
You got picked up from here?
I crept here at 7 o'clock in the morning, and a boat picked me up from that quay there.
That's sort of
And I left
Dunkirk.
the island in the night time practically. It's very exciting.
Oh, you're so inextricably linked to the Isle of Wight. You can never be anywhere else now.
Can't really.
I feel almost guilty being on her beach, But the idea that in the summer people can come here and swim and have picnics and enjoy exactly
What those very privileged children
What those
had.
privileged children
Yeah.
had. I think Albert would have approved.
So, Imo,
Well,
how's your day out been?
I love it, actually. I really do. Appallingly, I don't go to museums enough. This is like kind of home of my dreams, with a beach and a huge park and swimming and endless possibility of picnics and interior decorating choices. It's a really good choice, and it's definitely swayed me to moving to the Isle of Wight. But if I can't have a home like this, if it's not on the market, where am I going?
We'll find you somewhere, Imo. I just wanted you to see this as one end of the extreme, and obviously now I'll be taking you to see some bungalows. Okay?
No, I can
With
totally
a lock-up
see the
and
charm.
leave garage. That's all you need. But I just think this, I mean, I've brought godchildren, I brought nieces and nephews here, and you can waste a day here because there's so much to see. And even the children are entranced by the house because it is a family house.
I think that's what's so different, because there are dolls' houses and Punch and Judy shows and things and also there's so much in every room. There's just masses for the eye to land on. It's appalling that I didn't have much of an attitude to Albert and Victoria, but now I do.
Thanks for listening to Meet Me at the Museum with me, Anneka Rice.
And me, Imogen Stubbs, at Osborne House here on the Isle of Wight.
If you like this episode of the podcast, please rate, subscribe, or tell a friend.
And don't forget, if you've got a National Art Pass, you can get free entry or discounts on museums all around the country.